Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Will You Survive?
The podcast.
And we totally didn't have to do that a second time because somebody didn't put their mic on.
Alex,
Anyways,
crazy.
we got something very spooky, very unsettling, very
Ooh.
of the month because this is definitely October still. October
Man,
part 2.
This episode is just full of lies at this point already.
Truly. My name's TJ, as always, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts because they are my co-hosts.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Alex.
And like I said, we got something special for you today. Today we're going to be doing scary stories. We're going to be reading an assortment of stories. Me and the boys have collected some very frightful and horrifying tales for all of you to hear.
Oh, I've got some good ones.
Eric said he has some good ones. So I think it's only fair that the rightful winner of last episode goes first. I'm pretty sure that was Alex. So, Alex, you go first.
Ooh, okay.
We will also be rating them from 1 to 10.
You're rating the story 1 to 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not going to be any points. You're going to be host next episode.
Yep.
Unless I steal it.
Okay.
Well, nobody's getting points. There's no points here. We're just rating.
Unless
Making
I
people
steal
feel bad.
it.
So, I know all of these stories from old. As you all know, I'm very old.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a long line.
Yes.
And I've experienced a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
The Crusades being a highlight.
this story was etched in stone. It exists from long ago. The author's name is Mark, not his real name. But that's not relevant. Anyway, Mark says, I grew up in a house that had a lot of paranormal activity in it. It started when I was young. I would get woken up. Things would move. There was always bad attitudes in the house. I would get blamed for things that I didn't do, like moving things or stealing things, and then they would show up later. I was always scared in the house. And as I grew up, I became a teenager. By the time I was a teenager, I liked to be alone. I would sit in my room, listening to music, isolating myself from everybody else because I always felt like I was being blamed for everything that went wrong in the house, even though it couldn't possibly have been my fault. Things like food going bad that was just bought from the store. Like I said, a lot of bad attitudes. One day I'm laying in my room, I'm listening to music, and there was this odd instance where one of the things I was blamed for is putting my doorknob of my door through the wall. Now everybody knows there's door stops on the back of a door. So how did I do that? But there's a perfectly round shaped hole where the doorknob would go. And you could look in that hole. And on the other side, there was my brother's room. His wall had the same hole. Somehow that was my fault too. So I didn't like my brother to be able to see into my room. You know, I wasn't always the best kid. I definitely give you that. But to give me some privacy, one of the things I did was I pushed a towel into the hole and I laid down on my bed. I was listening to music, and then all of a sudden I heard something, an unsettling noise. I pulled my headphones off. I looked around the room. I didn't see anything. I didn't notice it at first. But I put my headphones back on, and that's when I heard something again. It wasn't in the headphones. It was coming from outside. I took my headphones off again, and I looked around. That's when I noticed. That towel I put in the hole was gone. And, you know, clearly the only obvious answer is my brother's messing with me. So I run out of the room and go into his room. He's not in there. Towel's not in there. Go back into my room. I put another towel in there. This time a big one. You can't pull this through, little shit. I lay back down, put my headphones back on. That towel gets pushed out. Now this time I know it's my brother. I go charging into the room instantly because I saw this happen. I'm going to catch him. He's not there. I go back into my room. I look back into the hole. And as I'm looking into the hole, something on the other side looks back at me. I fall backwards. I'm shaking. I can't quite gain my composure. I didn't really see what I saw. I can't believe what it was. Was that an eye? Was that a face? Was something looking back at me? Then I get back up I dare myself to look back in that hole. And before I can look in, that fucking towel shoots back out at me. Out. A limp towel, like it's being pulled, comes right back out of that hole. Now I charge out of the room. I'm insistent that my brother is fucking with me. I barge into his room and I'm looking all around, and I go back onto the other side and I grab the towel and I'm going to pull it out because somehow he's doing this. I don't know how. And when I pull on that towel, all of a sudden I'm playing tug of war. And something is pulling that towel back. And I'm pulling with all of my might. And it yanks that towel right out of my hand and sucks it back into the wall. I look back in again, knowing I don't want to see what's there. And this time what I see is a blood-soaked room. As if the most horrendous murder has taken place in that room. So now, I don't know what's real and what's my imagination. So this time I'm going to catch it. I'm going to catch whatever this is. And I take my dad's video camera and I set it up pointing through that hole. And I hit record. And I walk in and out of that room to make sure that I can see myself. Little test recording. And I verify I can see myself walking in and out of that room. The tape is recording. The video, it has audio and video. I go back into my room and I set it up. I press record and I wait. And when I check the tape later, all I had was the beginning of me walking around in that room. 9 minutes of snow. And then it starts back up again when I started the tape, when I checked the tape. How it recorded 9 minutes of snow with time code is impossible. It was as if it recorded nothing on purpose. But I'll tell you, the noises that came from that room, the horrible nightmares I suffered this whole time, they can't be explained by anything else. But I'll tell you what I experienced. But first, you guys have to tell a story. That's
Very
my
well
cliffhanger.
written. I didn't write anything. I stole things off the internet.
He wrote that?
I believe so, right?
I did.
That was kind of mid. 3 out of 10. I was
Damn. Damn.
That was pretty good. I liked it.
Oh, it was well written. Do you want me to go first, TJ?
I mean, I have one. It's not very long, so
Okay.
it's a one I heard when I was a kid. So it's not very I don't think it's that scary. You know, it was when I was a kid.
Okay.
But I mentioned it in one of the last episodes. It's called Humans Can Lick Too.
It's already unsettling.
Let me just get started. Once there was a little girl who had a lovely little dog. Her parents were on vacation and she was home alone for the weekend. The second night she was on the couch watching the news, and when a news story came on, apparently some psycho from the northern part of town was coming and killing children. The girl was immediately scared, went and locked every door, closed all the windows in the house, turned off all the lights, except for the ones in her room, you know. That night she went to bed as usual. She knew everything was okay because when she put her hand down under her bed where her dog liked to chill out, her dog licked it. So she, to give her a calming feeling. And she knew everything was going to be fine. But later in the night, she heard a drip, drip, drip coming from down the hall. And, she's kind of weird, She put her hand down and dog licked it again. She knew everything was fine. So she went downstairs to check out the tap, the sink. And it wasn't dripping, so she was wondering where it was coming from. But she didn't really care. She went up the stairs and went to bed, shut her door. An hour later, she woke up, and the dripping, she could hear it. It was louder. It was closer now. She was too afraid to leave her room at that point, but she terrified. She put her hand down. Her dog's there. Dog licks it. She felt fine, but she stayed up all the way to like 2 a.m. and she heard it again. It was coming from the bathroom. She put her hand down and the dog licked it, so calmed her down. She was like, everything's fine. She got up, went to check it out. She opened the bathroom door and screamed so loud it almost shattered the mirror. When she opened the door, the thing that she saw was her dog hanging from the ceiling. Abdominal cavity all split open, intestines dripping on the floor, and written on the mirror, what seemed to be in blood, was humans can lick too.
Oh, that's a big no. I don't like that.
I mean, they killed a dog.
Oh, but then to find the dog and realize that what's been licking you the whole time was not a dog.
The person under her bed.
I don't like that.
No, don't.
Yeah, that's very like supernatural horror based.
Yeah,
So
that one freaked me out when I was a kid.
This first one that I have here, first of all, it's from Thought Catalog, so credit to them.
The fuck is Thought Catalog?
It's just a website I found where apparently a bunch of people shared some creepy stories. This one is more real. This isn't like supernatural or anything. It's more real, and it's an actual thing that people do. Not a lot. This is a very uncommon thing. It's a very, very creepy and super illegal thing to do. But there's a real fear around it, and I think it's very valid. So this story is called Cabins Are a House of Horrors. Also, I'm going to try to read this like a human because it was written like a bot. They left out a lot of words that make the sentence flow. So I'm going to try to add them in. Bear with me. I rented a cabin for a week with my significant other, and the first night there, we had spent the day visiting her family, the real reason for our trip, had dinner, and she got pretty wasted. We get back to the cabin. I'm carrying my significant other inside, and we find all of our bags opened and dumped onto the floor, and this set me into a panic mode. I hadn't been drinking, and I routinely carry, so I pull out my gun and I sweep the house. I check every room, closets, even under the bed. Nothing. My significant other is still fast asleep, so I check that our stuff is still there and that there's nothing missing. It had just been dumped onto the floor. So I look around some more. All the windows are locked. The back door was even deadbolted. It just really bothered me that there was no sign of break-in. I know I locked the place before I left, so either someone else had a key to the cabin, or whoever it was still inside the cabin. Either way, I didn't think I'd be doing much sleeping. It was too late to make other arrangements, and considering that most likely there wasn't anything to worry about, really, we'd been gone all day from 9 a.m. to midnight, so odds whoever it was that did it was probably way earlier. But still, I couldn't shake it. I went in and covered up my significant other, used the bathroom, set up a rocking chair facing the front door with my hand on my gun on my lap, and I started to watch. I feel pretty silly sitting there, but I couldn't not sit there either. And sometime around 3 or 4 a.m., I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning around 7 a.m., sun shining through. I actually half scared myself because I hadn't meant to fall asleep, which then scared me again because I wasn't holding my gun. I started looking around, and on the couch is my gun. And I'm thinking, what? And then I look, and the front door is wide open. I'm thinking there's no fucking way. I jump up and start running to check on my significant other. Thank God she was still there, untouched. I go back into the living room and pick up my gun. All the bullets are missing. I go outside and look around. Car and everything is still there. No signs of anybody. I walk back inside, look in the far corner of the living room, and I see the corner of the main living room rug lifted up. I investigate. It's covering the opening to the crawl space. That means this guy was in my cabin the entire time. I must have pulled up and caught the guy in the act. He thought fast and hid in the crawl space. Then sometime during the night, crawled out, disarmed me, and walked right out the front door.
Ugh. I hate it.
So that's a real fear that people have of somebody living in their house, like
Yep.
living in the walls.
It's completely possible.
Yeah, you'd be
We've seen
surprised.
videos.
You'd be surprised how it's not common, but you would think it'd be a lot more uncommon to happen.
Yeah, no, that's one of my fucking fears. I don't ever want to like, get up in the middle of the night and I just, hey, I could have sworn
Yeah.
I like locked this, or I had, this in my fridge, or hey,
Yeah.
why is the attic door a little ajar? Like that shit's freaky. I don't want to. No.
Do you remember there's a YouTube video where this couple, things kept going missing. They kept, couldn't figure out what was happening. And so what they ended up doing was setting up a camera to figure out what was going on. They thought it was paranormal. And it turns out there was some feral person living in an attic space, and they would crawl out, they would drink their milk, they would pee in their sink, their kitchen sink, and then crawl back up. And they did this one time while they had fallen asleep watching TV on their couch. And this person had crawled out and ate their cereal, drank their milk, peed in their sink, and then crawled back up. And the next day they woke up, they checked the footage because they saw things were moved around and missing. They called the police. The police checked the footage and found this person living in the attic, which is funny to me because I'm like, I don't know what would be worse. I don't know if I would feel better if I was like, oh, thank God it wasn't paranormal. It was just some person living in my freaking house.
Somehow that's worse to me.
Right?
I would rather be haunted. Like I think that's better.
I think it's
Because it's something about it, because like being haunted is like it's a ghost. That's what ghosts do. But a person is like, what are you doing in my house?
Yep.
Yeah, there's a Netflix movie that very much follows that premise where they start having marital issues because the guy thinks she's going crazy because she keeps saying like that there's these haunting things that are happening, these are crazy things that are happening. But then like halfway through the movie there's a point where like she hides in the bedroom, and then she goes to escape the bedroom and there's a bookshelf blocking the way. And it was like very supernatural, paranormal, and she ends up jumping off the balcony to escape. And then her husband shows up and the cops show up, and of course the guy that was there went and hid. But that was the only point in the movie where the whole time you're like, oh yeah, I could see how she would think it's paranormal, but it's really just a person. And then there's this one moment where it's like, oh yeah, he just fucking magically moved a bookshelf with all the books and everything right in front of her door to block her. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That got a little weird, but regardless.
All right. So, where was I? So, as the night progressed, day turned into night. Everything got colder and far more creepy. I kept hearing noises. And of course, this one night, my brother had went over to spend the night with a friend, which we all did as often as we could, living in this house. But I keep hearing noises as if he's in there. So I keep having to go check. And it's almost like the noises continued until I would go check. Well, a little ways back, a few months ago, we were all playing in the room, and we broke a hole in the wall that revealed a crawl space. It was a large area that resided over the kitchen. And we covered it up. My dad had plans to use it, but all we did was place wood over it and set it aside. Didn't really secure anything, if you will. But as I kept hearing noises, I kept getting disturbed, and I would pull that towel out of the hole in the wall and look, and I found myself obsessed. I would sit and just stare in that hole all night long. And by the time it reached about 3 o'clock in the morning, I saw the scariest thing up to that point, where that panel of wood that we stuck on the hole just flew off the hole. I jump out of my seat. I stand there for a minute. I wait and think, what do I do? What do I do? Do I go and wake up my parents? There's something in there. I know there's something in there. I just saw it. That wasn't wind. Something couldn't have thrown that panel of wood off the wall that far. Or am I just crazy? So I decided I'm going to go look. Because if I'm just crazy, this is just in my head and there's no consequences to that. And I go into my brother's room. I cross the room. I put my head into the hole in the wall. It's large enough that I could fit all the way in there. And the first thing I notice is I flash my flashlight in there. All of the fiberglass insulation is levitating above all of the wood slats. And I thought, that's weird. I know heat rises, and I know insulation collects heat. But should they be floating like this? And in a fit of rage and madness that I'm insistent I'm going to prove that I'm not crazy, I grab a baseball bat and I climb in there and I smash down all of these fiberglass insulation. One at a time, I push them all back down. And I climb out of the hole and I shine my light back in there. And right from where I am sitting, the fiberglass in front of me lifted up and rolled as if something was underneath it, fluttering away from me. I froze. Fight, flight, or freeze. I froze. I didn't know what to do. A cold chill went all over my body. I know I saw that. I know I saw that. I'm not making it up. I'm not crazy. I know what I saw, and you can't tell me otherwise. And I got up finally. I gained control of myself, and I ran out of my room. I ran into my parents' room, and I woke them up. It was after 3 o'clock in the morning, and I woke them up. And I told them what I saw. And they spent all of their time telling me it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. I slept in their room. I'm a teenager. And I slept in my parents' room. I was so scared. The next day, I made it my mission. I'm going to find out what is in this room. Oh, and by the way, my brother's bed sits right underneath that hole in the wall. How many times could something have stuck its head out looking at him? No, I'm going to find out what this is. And cut.
I'm enthralled. I want to know what happens.
I also want to know what happened.
All right, I'll do this really short one. This one's also kind of real, and I don't know how I would react in this situation. I don't think I would react well, to be honest, because I don't do good when I just wake up from something. When I just wake up, I'm not awake. This one's called Bloody Visitor, from same website. About 3 years ago, I was at my parents' house alone, and while watching a movie, I fell asleep. About an hour later, I woke up to see a man covered in blood standing in the middle of the living room. I was a little freaked out, to say the least. I ran out the front door trying to get away, and it was then that I saw a total truck in the road in front of the house. Turns out he'd wrecked his truck and wandered into the nearest house looking for help. Called 911, the ambulance came, and the guy was okay, just a concussion. But, so on surface level, not that scary. But imagine you fall asleep watching a movie, you wake up, and there's just a what's the right word? Just out of it man covered in blood who just looks like a wreck. That, if I was armed, I might shoot the guy. That's pretty fucking terrifying.
That's good.
That's very good. My girlfriend talks in her sleep. At first, it was cute and hilarious to tell her what she said. It was harmless nonsense. The sky is folding. We need to raise the ground. We talked the next day about it and, if she remembered it in her dream. She never did. I knew what she meant by we need to raise the ground. Some context. Our nightly routine is for us to start cuddling and then give up once she gets too hot. Then we're usually both on our sides, back to back. She would fall asleep before I do, so I would hear the full range of her nightly musings. Honestly, at first, I was eager to hear what she said. It was always funny to tell her and our friends what she would say while deep in the throes of REM. But now I'm done. I'd prefer she not talk anymore. How am I going to
Damn.
sleep after what happened last night? Last night, around 11 p.m., she was asleep, and I was still up reading. Back to back, I hear her mumble something under her breath. I couldn't quite make out what she said, but I lean over from my book to peek at her face, and she's sleeping soundly. I return to my book, get absorbed back into its pages, and at some point I fall asleep. Next thing I know, I'm woken up by my girlfriend, talking at full volume. I open my eyes, and at some point in the night, both of us had turned to lay face to face. My girlfriend's eyes are wide open. She's staring right at me, mere inches from my face. But her eyes are vacuous, like she's looking through me. These eyes, man, it's like she's straining to widen them as much as possible. Those are the eyes I fell in love with, and right now they're scaring the absolute piss out of me. My heart rate skyrockets, and chock full of adrenaline, I throw the covers and jump out of bed. Looking at her, her eyes follow me like a painting, but her body stays still. For 1 second, I decided that my book light was keeping her awake, and what she said was, "Can you please turn that off?" Now out of bed and looking at her, she's not right. Her body hasn't moved, but her eyes dart from looking at me to looking around the room. I dare ask her, "Are you all right?" No response. Those eyes look at me when I speak, though. They are now deadlocked, looking right into my eyes. Her breathing hasn't changed. That is a sleep breathing for sure. That's when, while looking right at me, she says in a deep voice,
"Come back to bed, dearie."
My girlfriend has never called me dearie before. We have pet names, sure, but they range from pumpkin, baby, to cupcake. Dearie sounds like something my grandmother would call me.
Yeah.
I decided to get more information before I climbed back into bed with a potentially possessed girlfriend. "Are you awake, sweetie?" No response. The eyes dart to me, to the wall, to the door, then to the ceiling. I'm about to nope out of the room, and then her wide eyes roll back into her head. The white from those eyes stands out in the dim radiance of the book light. "No pupils in sight," she insists. "Of course I'm awake. Come back to bed," with a subtle tap of her fingers on the comforter. Looking at her fingers now, I'm starting to come around. She's never sleepwalked before. Surely she is awake now if she is moving her hands. But looking at her fingers, it is though she is pretending to have control. They are going in all different directions. One finger is pointing straight down, and all the others to the side? Those are not my girlfriend's hands. They are simulating normal movement as best they can, though. So I say, "I'm going to get a drink of water, baby. Be right back. Can I get you anything?" Fully planning on running out of the house the moment I'm over the threshold. But my normally sweet and agreeable girlfriend decides I'm not allowed to leave. And as serious as cancer, she says in that too deep horror voice,
"Take one step out of that door, and I will rip out your throat and shit down your neck."
Shocked but understanding the importance of not letting this beast know I am in trouble, I reply, "As interesting as a proposition that is, I think I'm going to," and thinking quickly, I grab my water bottle from the nightstand. This doesn't please my girlfriend as she decides to start screaming and fingering her way towards me. It is a supernatural scream, so high-pitched and bird-like, I feel as though my neighbors 3 houses down were going to ask us if they heard last night. As fast as I can muster, I unscrew the lid and douse her in water, like I knew what I was doing. Her eyes close, her garbled appendages normalize, and she is back asleep. I'm going to sleep on the couch for a while, maybe forever. She'll understand when she's awake. And that's part 1.
That's pretty good. I like that one.
Come back to bed, dearie. Yeah,
think
dearie would be a big,
'Cause
like,
he said
Yeah,
deep
nah.
voice. So I was
Yeah.
thinking more like, "Come back to bed," you know? But
yeah,
then
that's a
he's-
hard no.
But Then he said Deary, and I'm like,
And-
is it an old lady?
They're here.
Who?
The zombies.
I thought the gate would stop them.
They knocked it down instantly.
How much time do we have?
They're already here.
We should have bought that beautiful Los Angeles dream house in that safe neighborhood that Corinne showed us.
I know, it was so much more defensible, and Corinne would have had us moved in before the apocalypse.
Do you think it's too late to call her now?
I'll try. No! Ah! We should have called Corinne sooner!
Don't wait until it's too late. Call Corinne Salas today at 714-510-6443 and buy your Los Angeles dream house now. That's 714-510-6443. You can also find her on Instagram at Next Home by Corinne or visit her website at corinnesalas.nexthomegrandview.com. That's CORINNESALAS.nexthomegrandview.com.
I think we probably have time for one more round.
The next day, I managed the courage to tell my brother what was going on. He wasn't even the slightest bit surprised. He told me about all the noises he hears. He hears voices, things talking to him. Again, like I said, we all tried staying the night out as often as we could. So I told him I wanted to find out what it was. Was this just some random ghost haunting, or was this some malevolent spirit? I'm hoping for the former, but I'm really expecting the latter. We come up with a Home Alone style plan on how we're going to figure this all out. You could probably guess within the first 15 minutes, we abandoned that plan. What had happened was he was downstairs watching TV late into the night. I was up in my room, and I'm watching, and I'm listening, and I'm waiting, and all of a sudden, I started hearing the noises. And again, I'm watching through that hole, looking into his room, and I'm seeing shadows move around, and I'm hearing noises. It's clear as day somebody's walking in his room. I dart out of my room and run into his. You know there's nobody there. I'm starting to feel like I am actually going crazy. This is all a hallucination. I can't possibly rationalize anything that is going on. I'm dreaming. I'm asleep. I'm in a coma. No. It's happening. And you have to live with this. There's nothing you can do about it. So you'd better figure out how you're going to live your life with all of this going on. And I muster every ounce of courage I have, and I run downstairs, and I wake my brother up, and I tell him, you got to come up. It's happening. He's groggy, and he wakes up, and he comes up and follows me up into my room. And as we sit in the room, I tell him what had been going on again. I know he doesn't fully believe me, even though he's had his own experiences. So I tell him I'm going to show him. And I take the towel that I'd been using, and I shove it in the hole, and I pull it back out. So no, it wasn't like that. It pulled. It was tug of war. And I put it back in, and I pull it right back out. I tell him, well, look in the hole. Look in the hole, you'll see. I'm looking at things walk around. Something looked back at me yesterday. And he sat in front of that hole and looked through. Now I know he thinks I'm going crazy. I'm on the verge of tears. How do you get out what's happening and tell somebody else without sounding like you're absolutely bonkers? I mean, he's experienced so much of this stuff too. How can he not believe me? And in a fit of rage, I'm ready to kick him out of the room, and I shove the towel in the hole, and I said, get the fuck out of my room. I don't want you in here. I'm going to put this in here so you can't fucking see me. You go sleep in that room since you don't want to believe me. And just then the towel gets sucked right in that hole. He watched it. He saw it happen. and he saw my face. We looked at each other, neither one of us wanting to believe what we saw. And as we stand silent, facing the wall, like a couple of madmen looking at a fucking hole in drywall, as sure as it got sucked in, it was back out again, as if nothing had happened. And we both grabbed that towel in the thought, I think simultaneously thinking both of us are fucking with each other. And we pull. And two of us pulling on this fucking towel. And something was pulling so hard back that it ripped it right out of our hands, burning our hands as it did so. And I'm slightly crying. I look at him and I see he's trembling. And I put my eye down, level with the hole, and I'm looking through. And I see the most unbelievable thing. The room itself, as if it's on a gyro, is spinning. Going upside down. I can't understand what I'm seeing. I can't explain to you why it was so scary. It's almost like your worst nightmare coming true. And then you have to tell other people what's happening. Him and I sat, huddled up, looking through that fucking hole like a couple of psychopaths, waiting for the groundhog to poke his head out to see if we have 6 more weeks of winter. We couldn't stop looking, no matter how terrified we were. And we sat like that for hours. We fell asleep on the floor of my room. And when we woke up, it was to loud bangs happening all throughout the house. My parents woke us up. We ran into their room as the whole house was shaking from these loud bangs. We all huddled together. And you know, the worst part about it was I finally felt vindicated. Because now they had to believe me. I wasn't crazy. Everybody was experiencing this. And now they had to go through what I was going through. I feel like kind of an asshole for feeling relieved that they felt crazy.
Mid.
Creepy.
We should have just gave him our stories, Eric, so he could read it.
True. Okay, I have another one. This one is a little longer. It's longer than the last one.
All right, cool.
This is a different website. It's from Jezebel.com. And this one is called Room 4. Fresh out of nursing school, I got my first real job in a fairly large hospital and in a department that I honestly never thought I would ever work in. It was a 6-bed cardiac ICU with rooms that overlooked the city capitol building. It was a very nice unit, and I started out working 12-hour night shifts. The hospital I worked at had 4 other ICUs that were always full, so my unit always ended up being code bed, meaning if someone was arrested or went downhill fast somewhere around the hospital, they came to us. I'd been working there for a year, and I was no stranger to death. Each patient of mine who had died on my shift was usually already on their way out. Their families were by their side, the DNR order was signed, the funeral home was already picked out. It was rarely ever a surprise. In fact, the only time I was ever needed to do CPR on my shift, it was not for my own department. So I went on a nice long 2-week vacation, got engaged, and had a beautiful tan. On my first night back, I received a report from the day charge nurse. She said she was off for a few days and suggested to remind the next day charge nurse that the priest was coming in the morning to bless room 4. I thought she was kidding at first, but she was serious. Apparently, while I was on vacation, every patient who was admitted to that room had died. But this came as no shock to me. People died often in our department, and it being a very religious institution, having a chaplain for almost every department, I just shook it off. Then she said that room 4 was empty and that it would serve as code bed for the night. Around 2 a.m., I got a call saying that they have someone to fill our open bed. The ICU downstairs was now going to be code bed, so we were getting your run-of-the-mill chest pain, take a look in the morning kind of patient. Nothing to get excited about. We get the patient admitted and all settled into room 4. He was a gentleman about 50 or so years old, very pleasant. His wife was with him, and she looked dead on her feet. I got her some warm blankets and took her to our waiting room that had some cots so that she could get some rest. Around 3:30, I was watching monitors and the cameras in each room. All the patients were fast asleep. The cameras all cycled through about 3 seconds each on one small TV we had on the desk. Room 1 was fine. Room 2 was fine. Room 3 was fine. Room 4, there was someone in there. It cycled too quickly for me to get a good look, and the doors to the unit were locked. Maybe the other nurse let his wife back in? I walked down the hall and glanced inside. There was nobody. I shrugged it off. It was late, and I was tired. I was probably just seeing things. I went back to the desk, and I continued watching the screen. Room 1, Room 2, Room 3, Room 4. I was not imagining anything. There was someone in room 4. The person was standing in the corner by the window, their figure completely draped in shadow. I couldn't move my body. It cycled through again. This time it was closer to the patient's bed, by maybe 2 or 3 feet. The hair stood straight up on my neck. The next time it cycled through, it was even closer. It stood in the light coming from the hallway, but despite the light, it was still shrouded in darkness. It cycled through again, and it was right next to the bed. My heart started pounding, and I could barely squeak to the nurse on the other end of the desk. As soon as my words formed and I was able to make some kind of noise to get her attention, the alarm on the monitor went off, signaling that the patient had cardiac arrested. The overhead system came on. A cart is needed in CCU room 4. People poured into the department. Doctors, nurses, pharmacists, respiratory therapists, they all rushed into the room, but I couldn't move. It cycled through the rooms again. Room 4 came up, and this time the lights were on, and there were 10 to 15 people surrounding the bed, doing CPR and slamming meds into his IV. Someone went to get his wife from the waiting room, but there it was. In the opposite corner again, a dark figure watching this scene play out, just standing there. The man died of a heart attack. Room 4 was blessed that morning, right on schedule, and I put in my 2 weeks' notice.
Jeez. I like that one.
I feel like hospitals for sure have to deal with a lot of creepy shit. But maybe just from the fact that they're working 12-hour shifts, and I'm sure they freak themselves out. But
I mean, like,
I got to imagine there's more hospital scares.
You have to.
human bodies are weird. There are a lot of like weird medical shit happening and weirdos coming to the ER and shit like that.
There's also a medical condition that causes a lot of people to think that something went on. One of the things that happens when people are terminal, and it's a very sad thing that apparently happens quite often, where just before they expire, they get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they start talking and they start like they're ambulatory, and people are like, oh, they're better, they're going to be better. And then shortly after that, they just go. And
I've heard nurses say that it makes them so sad when they
they
realize it, that
they can't explain it to the patient's family that no, they're not better.
Prepare.
They're not better. It's not a miraculous healing. This is very common. But it's like very delicate. How do you tell them, nah, dude, they're going to die like probably tomorrow, if not today?
Yeah.
Like it's going to happen. But I mean, what do you say? How do you just handle that?
You
But
can't. You just have to know that it's going to happen and be there.
I know. Okay. This has been a very fun time. We should definitely do it again.
I do think we should hit a part 2 and finish those stories.
Fuck yeah.
I
Well,
have more that I've written too.
yeah, great. Well, everybody, thank you for watching. Alex, would you like to give them all of our socials?
Heck yeah. Everybody make sure you check us out on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Those of you who are watching live already know this, but you could find us. Just search Will You Survive the Podcast. And you can also find us, of course, anywhere you get podcasts. By the time you hear this, you'll already know. But check out some of the others. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, TuneIn, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Good Pods, where we're listed as the number 1 survival podcast of the month. That's on their top 100 chart. You can also send us your emails. Tell us your spooky stories. Send your emails to theboys@willyousurvivethepodcast.com. That's THEBOYS @willyousurvivethepodcast.com. And I think that's it for now.
Yay.
Awesome.
Like I said, thank you all for listening. This has been the Will You Survive podcast. That has been Eric. That has been Alex. I have been TJ.
We have been us.
We have been us. And tune in next week where Alex will be the host because it was already predestined in the last episode.
Wow.
Yeah. So, fuck you, Eric. And stay alive.